Hey, I'm Guy. That's
I'm John.
John. Got you. And we got to talk about the Raiders and the Bucs.
Yep. Also like the video down below in the description.
Sunday Night Football. Raiders off a bye. Bucs, who just got the Packers off a bye and kicked their ass, but they were kind of coming off, like you said, it's kind of unfair to the Packers that the Bucs are coming off Thursday Night Football. I think this is the biggest Vegas matchup for sure that we've had so far. We had the Saints in there early. This one feels bigger. Brady in Vegas, and it's Sunday Night Football. I know it's not a coming out party because the Raiders just beat the Chiefs, shocked the world. But this would feel, if Gruden and Carr pull this one off on Sunday Night Football after they beat the Chiefs, which means no letdown, and you beat the Bucs after the game they just played, I think this would kind of feel like they've taken another big, huge step forward.
I think a big reason, like as you go in the season, games just feel bigger than they did earlier because there is some unknown week 1 or week 2, like how good a team's going to be. Because we assume part of that Raider win against the Saints was, well, the Saints have been a powerhouse for 4 or 5 years. And it looks like, well, maybe they'll be a little bit of a shell of themselves. This to me, like you watch Monday Night Football and you see that both 4-1, both 4-1. It's why like late in the season when you see like a 10-2 play a 9-3, it's like, God, this feels really big because there's a lot on the line. Even though these teams aren't in the same conference, like this is a playoff game more for the Raiders. Yeah, I think it's fair to say Tampa's going to the playoffs. The Raiders do have to earn their way there in the sense of like Tampa's got the talent, they have the coaching staff, their defense is fantastic. The Raiders just got to find a way to get to 9 games. And I think one thing we've learned over the years is like what's so big to win a game like this is because any game with the Raiders, even this year to me, is like not a lock win. Like you play the Chargers, they're going to beat the Chargers because I think most people go, oh, look at the schedule, the division. Like you see the Broncos, like they can have their moments. They still got a lot of talent. I by no means assume the Raiders are going to go 4-0 in those games. Is that fair? In the
Yeah,
Denver.
I agree with you. I don't assume anything. I think what the Chiefs game did was it just changed what you think what their ceiling could be, but it doesn't. They haven't proven the consistency yet, right? They've just now shown a ceiling.
Because they also have moments where they can feel overwhelmed in a game when it's not going right, like against like the Bills. They just kind of got shoved around. The Patriot game is a good example. Like Cam was off, but they were did you ever consider the Raiders in that game watching it? It was like the Patriots just
Early they were around, but they didn't. You're right. The score felt closer than the game.
so then you see a game like the Chiefs and you go, your ceiling is a playoff team. And if you can put back-to-back games together, because if you win this game,
Well,
you're in.
do you mean that your ceiling is beyond a playoff? I mean,
Well, I just think you make it to the playoffs. The way the NFL works, you get your one game shot,
okay.
Just live week to week. They would have enough talent to win a playoff game. But, like, they would be the 6 or 7 seed. They would be playing on the road. They'd be an underdog. It'd be tough, right? They'd be
Yeah, I'm
Tennessee
just saying
or
when
Pittsburgh.
you beat the Chiefs, I think we got to give you a little more ceiling than just making the playoffs.
Yeah,
Which I don't
would
think you're
say
saying that.
they're not going to be like a 10-point underdog in the playoffs. They'd be like 3 or 4. Hell, they might be good value. But I think when you look at the next 2 weeks in a vacuum, this game's big because next week's huge. Like that next week Browns game is a tiebreaker game to me for a 6th or 7th wild card spot, probably the 7th, right? Because when you look at, I think it's pretty clear the AFC playoff picture's already taken shape. You got 2 teams locked in the AFC North: Steelers, Ravens. Those teams are playoff teams.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs, lock playoff team. I think the Bills are a lock playoff team. And they've already beat the Raiders, so that's 4. Then the Titans, to me, feel like a borderline lock playoff team. And the Colts, their team is just so talented, like they're going to get to 9 or 10. So that's the one spot I think it's kind of taken shape is kind of the Raiders and the Browns. And that's where you win this week. All of a sudden you're 4-2. Are you going into that game with a ton of confidence? Like to me, either way, you're going into that game feel pretty well because you'd be coming off a loss. It's easy to get up after losses. Or you just beat the Bucs and Chiefs back-to-back games. You're like, we're going to fucking beat the Browns and just be rolling to the playoffs. But this week, just playing well. The one thing you see with the Chiefs is they do kind of pick their spots. They wanted to beat the shit out of the Ravens. They housed them. They lost to the Raiders. They played the Bills on the road, bad environment. That game really wasn't close, right? They punked Josh Allen. Like they housed him. The Todd Bowles, I think right now in NFL circles, people consider him the best defensive coordinator. Like that's a tough matchup for Derek. Just that matchup in a vacuum, just how aggressive he is. I mean, they just destroyed Aaron Rodgers. And I think when you watch him play, they blitz a lot. He's a tough guy to play. And it's just a big moment for Derek on a big stage with a lot of people watching. And there's extra eyeballs with Tom, right? It's just that makes the game, as like the Raider game against the Saints was huge. Monday Night Football, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, those guys are rock stars. Tom is bigger than both those two guys combined. So just what Tom brings to the table, and then the Bucs just being kind of good, but it's just Tom. Like that's just there's going to be a lot of eyeballs. And defense of like what I'm saying, they passed the first test. They beat the fucking Saints on Monday Night Football with a lot of people watching. Then last week they beat the Chiefs. That was Nance and Romo, right? Like that was a big game.
Mm-hmm.
So this game, it just gets bigger, and that's part of being a playoff team.
Right.
For the first time in a while, it just only like we saw it last year with the Niners. It exponentially grows.
There's no, all right, we made it. Let's take it. Let's exhale.
No, because like you win this game, which would be a huge win for them. All of a sudden, it's like, well, you can't then drop the game to the Browns, right?
Because then they'd have a better record than you. In theory, they play the Bengals this week, but they'd have a better record than you, and that they just beat you. So you just gave all this equity that you earned back.
Is it fair to say though? If you had to win one of these next two games, you'd rather win the Browns game than this game, just based on playoff implications.
Yeah, the fact that that you'd be fighting with them for a playoff spot and they're in your conference. Yeah.
Because is it fair to say we know for a fact if the Browns are going to make the playoffs, they're going to be a wild card team. They cannot win the division, right? They've already been beat by both those two teams. Those two teams are better. They're going to be.
Look at them and they're better. Like I watched them and the Raiders. The Raiders to me are a better football team than the Browns.
So their only goal is to be the 7th seed. And right now, what do the Raiders want to be? The 7th or 6th seed. So it's like you're fighting with them. But you can't look past this game. But I think this game is a huge test for just Derek. I mean, I think it's a huge game. He had his best game in the Gruden era by a mile. Can he do that against I think it's fair to say a much more aggressive defense in Todd Bowles?
This almost feels like you're moving the goalposts on the Raiders to say this, but it's not, I mean, the Chiefs have been so dominant against them, particularly in Kansas City. It's not fair to then turn around and go, well, maybe the Bucs game is tougher. But in some ways, right, a team that can still score but also defends. Now, I guess on paper, I think the Chiefs defense is actually like what they did against the Bills was pretty impressive.
I think it's tougher whenever you're playing an uncommon opponent, just in the sense of the Chiefs have kicked their ass, but they do have a lot of. You should just feel more comfortable, even if it's Mahomes. Like you have seen him under Gruden and Derek now 4 times. Gunther has a lot. You see him on the cross tape in your division. Like there's a reason we always say division games, like the Browns and Bengals. Would it shock you if the Bengals beat them? Of course not. They played earlier this year. They've played similar opponents. You have a better feel for your division.
Did you have the line on this game in front of you?
I think the Raiders are -3. Or excuse me, the Raiders are +3. Okay. So it's basically the way I look at it is like a 6-point swing, right? Because you get 3 points for just being at home.
But do you feel like Vegas is giving you 3 for home this year?
I do. Yeah, they still are. Because what would you say if I said, Guy, you're the bookmaker? What would your line be on this game?
Probably
my line would be bigger.
Your line would be Raiders +5?
Yeah, I'd go Vegas zone, like 4.5, 5 to 4.5 to 5.5, somewhere in that.
Yeah.
And after the game, if the Raiders win, it might not even be fair. I just think based on Tampa's just got a little more talent. I also think they match up pretty well, right? I mean, they got Godwin's back now. You got to give him credit. Like Gronkowski looked I only watched the first half really because they were kicking their ass. He did look a lot better, right? Just Tom's going to him. They're kind of getting on the same page.
Look athletically.
No, but I'm just saying, like,
plays.
They're on the same page again. Like he just placed a couple balls. Gronk knew.
Yeah.
They ran a tight end screen for him.
Yeah.
I think this is a great matchup, just a coaching standpoint. Todd Bowles against John Gruden. Like that's fun. I mean, Todd Bowles just kicked Matt LaFleur's ass. And I think John kind of that's shit he likes, right? Like he gets up, like to me, he's like, I'm playing Todd Bowl. I think that kind of gets him going.
You're 100% right. I do, and I said it the other day, so I don't need to get back into it too much. But I don't think I think the Packers still might be better than the Bucs, or at least as good of them as them. I just think that once you had the back-to-back picks, and the pick six, the whole thing just felt like it fell apart, right? So I don't. That felt more like Todd Bowles beat the pack. That didn't feel like a LaFleur got his ass kicked to me. That felt like things went wrong, and then the whole thing fell apart for everybody. There was nothing LaFleur could do. But you're right. That's Bowles' deal. Like, he makes that happen to you.
Well, to me, the defining Bowles attribute is he just stays pedal to the metal. So he's going to bring heat. He's going to be aggressive. Every time you look up, he's got 7-8 guys at the line of scrimmage. Now, their DBs aren't great, but their front seven, I had a coach tell me that he thought them and the Colts were the best in the league. So now Vita's out. They just traded for one of the Jets, just gave him a nose tackle. But it's like,
you talking about the Bucs?
I'm talking about the Bucs. Vita Vea got hurt, so they traded for the Jets nose tackle like right after the game. And this is no shot at Vita Vea, who I've had people in the league that is like he's their best defensive player. If you said you could lose if you had 11 guys on defense, and your defense was just one of the best in the league, if you could choose the guy to lose, you'd probably choose a nose tackle before you choose like a corner or a pass, like an end. Like he is, despite being he was becoming a fantastic player.
You're not saying you would choose him. You're just saying if you had to choose one.
Yeah, like you could you could trade for a shitty team, like get a 330-pound guy that at least just can plug the gap, you know?
I mean, but they used, what pick was he, like 12?
Yeah, he was high. You know who's become like their dominant player is Devin White, the guy that the Raiders passed on for Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah. I think one thing that gets overlooked about this game, because we've just talked about Vegas for so many years, but you could hear it on Sunday Night Football this last week when Al and Chris were talking about it, was just, we've got a Sunday Night Football game in Las Vegas. Because Al and Chris were like, did you ever think this was going to happen? I think we kind of take for granted how, just because it's been it's been part of our discussions for so long. You wish there could be fans to make it feel like, everyone that
I do think it'll really feel whenever, hopefully 2021, that
knock if you're with me.
It'll kind of be their opening moment.
Yeah, maybe they'll
maybe
they'll get the opener.
Would you see? Would it shock you?
No.
If the Rams and the Raiders kind of get back, like one gets Monday, one gets Sunday. Sometimes, I think that's only fair. And the Raiders were, I think, officially it was in the last 5 or 6 days got the Super Bowl 2025. Because I think it's pretty clear, like this Vegas thing's gonna be cool and work.
Well,
and
don't forget they were supposed to have they have the Pac-12 title game too. That was something that they've got built in.
And didn't they push the draft back next year if they can do it?
Yep.
Listen, we've all been to Vegas. It's 2020. Like, you'd be stupid to not. I mean, the Pac-12, aren't they? The Pac-12 has been doing their basketball tournament forever there, right? It's become a hub just of tournaments for sports. Like, it makes a lot of sense now that the Raiders are there just to do. Are they going to host a national championship? Right?
Absolutely.
Probably in the next 4 or 5 years.
A basketball one too. A Final Four.
Has Jerry hosted it at AT&T? You can do it there, huh?
I'm pretty sure he had a Final Four.
Yeah, I think he has, hasn't he?
I think so.
So you can do it. It just kind of sucks for the shooters. Doesn't make the backdrop a little weird.
But they play in the Georgia Dome. Like everywhere
it's
they
just
go
part
now
of the
is huge. It's 80,000
and they've been
seats.
doing that forever.
Yeah. Oh, remember Jerry did, because there was like some seats that was like way up, obstructed, and some weird deal.
Dude was behind a pole or something.
Yeah.